You know, every revolution has its soldiers, its leaders, its politicians, but way before the first shot is fired, there's usually an idea. And behind that idea, a mind. An intellectual architect who gives the whole struggle its language, its meaning, its soul. Well, for the 1979 Iranian Revolution, that mind belonged to Ali Shariati. Let's dig into how he did it.
Just listen to that. The martyr is the heart of history. That wasn't just some line in a dusty book. This was a ready-made revolutionary slogan, a rallying cry that got painted on banners and chanted in the streets by millions. It really captures the electrifying spirit of a man who wasn't just writing about history, he was trying to grab it by the collar and change its course.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at Shariati's role as the revolution's chief thinker. Then, we need to understand the alienated generation he was speaking to, because that's key. After that, we'll dive into his powerful critique of the West, check out the revolutionary vision he offered up instead, and finally, try to unravel the really complex and contested legacy he left behind.
Okay, so just how important was this guy, really? Well, to get a handle on the revolution, you absolutely have to understand his role as its main ideas man. It's said, and you hear this a lot, that his influence was second only to Imam Khomeini himself. Think about that. While Khomeini was the undeniable political and religious leader, Shariati, he was the one who provided the intellectual firepower. He gave an entire generation of Iranians a brand new language to understand their faith, their place in the world, and what they needed to do about it.
And here's his masterstroke. He reframed Islam as what he called a Jahanbini, a total worldview. Now this was a game changer. He basically argued that Islam wasn't just about prayer and being a good person in private. Nope, it was a complete ideological system, fully loaded and ready to take on the big Western isms of the day, from Marxism to liberalism. It was a call to action.
But you gotta ask, why did his message land so hard? Why was it so resonant? To get that, we need to zoom in on the specific audience he was talking to. So try to put yourself in their shoes. Imagine you're a young, educated Iranian in, say, the 1960s or 70s. You've gone to modern Western-style universities. You feel like the traditional religion of your parents doesn't really speak to your modern problems, but at the same time, you feel like a stranger in your own culture. You're alienated, stuck between two worlds. This was the exact problem Shariati was trying to solve. And right into this ideological vacuum stepped all these powerful Western ideas. Marxism, liberalism, existentialism, they all offered this slick, modern language for revolution and social critique. For this generation that felt so lost, these ideas seemed to have the answers that traditional religion just didn't. Shariati knew he had to come up with something just as compelling, if not more so. And that is precisely what he did. But before building up his own vision, he first launched this systematic, really powerful critique of the very Western humanism that his audience found so attractive. He had to dismantle the competition first. What's so brilliant here is how he gets right to the root of the problem, by comparing two basic stories about humanity. On one side, you've got the Greek myth of Prometheus. He steals fire from jealous gods, right? So humanity is automatically set up in this endless struggle against the divine. But then look at the Islamic story. God entrusts his divine spirit to humanity, making us his deputies, his vice-regents. See the difference? Here, God isn't your enemy, he's the very source of your freedom and power. Shariati then argued that this flawed Western starting point, this struggle against the divine, leads to a total dead end. He looked at capitalism and communism, which everyone saw as total opposites, and said, hold on, they actually end up in the same place. Both of them, he argued, reduce a human being to an economic animal, a creature whose only real purpose is to produce and consume, trapped in this meaningless loop of work and stuff. I mean, this quote just perfectly nails his point. He's asking, doesn't Marxism just take that same materialistic, consumerist mindset of capitalism and try to give it to everyone? He saw it as the same basic worldview, just with a different CEO. It wasn't a real alternative at all.
Okay, so after tearing down the Western models, what was Shariati's big alternative? This is where he offers a completely different, and for his audience, a far more inspiring vision for what it means to be human. So instead of that economic animal, Shariati presents this vision of humanity as something noble, something with a purpose. He says we're not just a product of random material forces. No, we are God's chosen deputies on earth, beings given free will and a sacred mission to actively shape the world for the better. And he gets specific about what this true human looks like. It's a being that's creative, idealistic, and moral. a person who chooses sacred values over just what's useful, who will sacrifice for an ideal. Someone who isn't just content with the world as it is, but is always striving for what it ought to be. These are all qualities that he argued materialism could never, ever explain.
He loved this quote from Imam Ali, and you can see why. It perfectly sums up his vision of human agency. Real freedom, real liberation, it doesn't come from some external ideology or economic system. The potential for our own downfall and our own salvation, it lies right inside of us. It's a powerful call to wake up and take responsibility.
Now, here's where the story takes a turn. Shariati actually died in 1977. Just before the revolution he helped inspire really exploded. But his ideas, they took on a powerful and sometimes violent life of their own.
Yeah, his deep intellectual work didn't just stay in lecture halls and books, it flooded into the streets. His phrases were just so powerful, so memorable, they were perfectly designed for a generation looking for a new vocabulary for revolution. They literally became the slogans that defined the entire movement.
Take this one. Every day is Ashura, every place is Karbala. It's an incredible slogan because it connects the modern-day struggle against the Shah to the historic, epic martyrdom of Imam Hussein at Karbala centuries earlier. It instantly transforms a political fight into a sacred, timeless battle against injustice, a powerful idea Shariati brought back to life for modern Iran.
Now, it's really important to get this next part right because his legacy is often way oversimplified. Shariati was a fierce critic, but not of religion itself, and not of all clergy. He made this crucial distinction. On the left, he absolutely went after the official clergy, the ones he saw as corrupt and allied with the state. But on the right, he defended what he called the essential ulama, the genuine religious scholars who he believed were totally necessary to serve the community.
But nuance is so often the first casualty in a revolution. After he died, a terrorist group called Foregone took his complex critique of the official clergy and twisted it. They used it as a justification to assassinate religious figures, claiming they were just fulfilling Shariati's vision. It was a brutal hijacking of his legacy, and it's a terrifying example of how powerful ideas can be weaponized.
And that really leaves us with this huge, lingering question. The story of Ali Shariati isn't just about Iran, is it? It's a case study in what happens to ideas. And it forces us to ask, once a thinker unleashes a revolutionary new way of seeing the world, who gets to control what it means? Who gets to decide how it's used?